I am an impacted mother. I was actually working overseas. So I was sent to work in the US in 2013 by a Malaysian government-linked investment company. It was supposed to be a short stint, but it turned into something a lot longer than initially was expected. I met my now spouse there, and my child was born there. And I had applied for my child's citizenship in Malaysia because I traveled a lot to Malaysia at that time because of work, because of family. And I was told it would take 2 years to obtain her citizenship. And I said, okay, that's fine. I submitted all the papers and was waiting. All the while still working in the US and traveling back to Malaysia on and off. Borders were closed during the pandemic. I got a call from home in July 2020 that my dad had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. When I tried to travel back from the US, my then 3-year-old's application to travel with me was rejected on the basis that she was not Malaysian. For me, never in my worst nightmares did I think that I would be caught in a situation where I had to choose between my dad and my daughter. It was the height of the pandemic and the grave news that my dad was dying. I was dealt with an additional blow of not being able to return with my child, all because my daughter was not a citizen. I applied at least 5 times and was either denied or there was silence. I finally shared my story with a newspaper in Malaysia and received approval very soon after to travel back with my child and my spouse, and was able to spend some time with my dad before he passed away last year. I'm still in Malaysia, I live there. So I come into this work for very personal reasons, obviously, and it continues to be personal because my child is still not been granted citizenship. It is also very personal because I was working for a Malaysian company at that time. And now we're back in Malaysia and trying to make it our home, but it is very difficult because my child is denied basic equal rights when it comes to education and healthcare in public schools and hospitals. She had an accident. She ran into a glass pane and cut her head, and we had to rush her to the nearest emergency, which was a public hospital. She was fine, but when it came to paying the bill, it was double. I saw citizens, non-citizens, and they made me pay double for my child at that time. So the cost of healthcare, while it's accessible, is much higher for a non-citizen. I cannot fully describe how it feels to have your country reject your child. I don't have the words for that, honestly. Campaigns for the abolition of gender discriminatory laws. They are backed by a network of mothers who are affected by these laws, just like me. And one key aspect of the campaign that has significantly changed me is the focus on empowering affected mothers to get involved in advocacy efforts, as well as capacity building to rise up and speak about our story, to share our stories. And it is why I'm here today. Choosing to do this advocacy is also a realization of how pervasive gender discriminatory laws are to the autonomy of women and our ability to make decisions for ourselves and for the well-being of our children. Within our network, there are women who are choosing to stay in abusive relationships in fear of losing their child. Women are choosing to risk their lives to get on a plane late in pregnancy, to go home to give birth. Women are choosing to domicile in countries without any support system, all because of these laws. That we are faced with these dilemmas and choices, especially when it involves risking our lives to ensure our child is Malaysian, a dilemma and choice no Malaysian man has to make, makes this incredibly hard to tolerate and accept. What does our work look like? There is a lot of public awareness work. Our intent is to create and deepen awareness on our issue. During the height of the pandemic, when we weren't able to meet in person, we used social media as a tool to share our stories and impact of the gender disparity. in our lives. I'm personally on Twitter, and there are mothers on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, constantly sharing our stories. Last year, we had events and gatherings and campaigns in person. One that was really emotional for me was a prayer event in a park for a mother from our network who had suddenly passed away, halting the ability for her child, who is now an adult, from gaining citizenship. The event was tender and beautiful, and it was to honor her fight for her daughter, whom as we speak is now an adult in Malaysia and without her mom has no way of obtaining citizenship with the existing laws. Through my advocacy work too, I came to know a fierce and brilliant journalist in Malaysia. She's an adult child of a Malaysian mom and has lived in Malaysia since she was 10 years old. Heartbreakingly, her mom passed away recently due to COVID, which has also halted her bid to citizenship through her mom. We speak to the media, we speak on panels, we meet with members of parliament and push for their support by highlighting the impact on our children. We have marched, I have marched in peaceful protests. And so ultimately, it's a collective effort. A recent event I attended recently, organized by Family Frontiers, we heard some really hopeful statistics. There was a poll conducted by Family Frontiers that interviewed people from various walks of life to find that 82% of those interviewed supported our call for gender equality in citizenship laws in Malaysia. I believe the government has heard us and has seen the impact of this unjust law on Malaysian women and our children. In February of this year, the cabinet announced their decision to proceed with amending the constitution to grant equal rights to women, which is a welcomed decision and long overdue. I cried when I heard it, almost in disbelief. And there is a lot more to say, and there is still a long ways to go, but it is a step in the right direction. As Catherine said, we have come a long way, and there is so much momentum at the moment for the change to happen. I believe it has been the tireless effort of Family Frontiers and the network of mothers who have pushed for this reform, who have stepped up and are showing and sharing our stories to create the awareness and to urge for change so that we are seen as equal under the law. In December 2020, Family Frontiers and 6 mothers filed a case at the High Court and to basically fight for equal rights to confer citizenship to the children of Malaysian mothers on an equal basis as men, Malaysian men. And in September 2021, the High Court ruled in our favor. It was a historic victory. We were so joyful. And I remember the call that we got on right after the announcement. I see Veena smiling in the audience. There was so many tears of joy. It was historic. But just a few days later, the government filed an appeal and we were heartbroken. And what was to follow was devastating. As in August 2022, the Court of Appeal overturned the High Court ruling in a 2-1 decision. Family Frontiers has applied for a leave to appeal at the federal court. And right now, that was granted in December 2022. And right now we are waiting for a hearing date for this appeal to be heard in the highest court of this country. I think what I want to lift up in this journey of the court case is that although the last outcome at the Court of Appeal wasn't favorable, it's the incredible level of awareness and conversations that it has sparked. So many people have come to me to share how they were not aware that this was happening to Malaysian women in this day and age. And so that awareness, I think, has really been something that has kept us going and wanting to continue to share our stories. At the same time, we are witnessing bipartisan support on this issue on a political spectrum in Malaysia. This had been an election issue last year and was included in the manifesto of all the major parties and coalition prior to the election. And since the election, the cabinet has committed to amending the constitution It does need a 2/3 vote at the parliament and approval from the conference of rulers. So we still have a ways to go. We mothers are cautiously optimistic and hope that the members of parliament from both sides, from all sides, will come together to pass this amendment in the parliament that is going to be in September of 2023. Initially, we were told that the vote would take place in March of 2023, which then got pushed to June of 2023. And now the latest we have heard is that it will be tabled in September of 2023. And we hope that there won't be any more further delays. In most recent news over the last few days, we have heard that the government is finalizing the proposed amendments to be tabled at that parliament based on the findings from a committee that was established to study this issue. I think I just want to stress on the urgent action and why this reform needs to happen sooner rather than later. What is important now is really for the government and all the members of parliament who will be voting at parliament to see how this impacts us mothers and our children. As we wait, our children continue to face difficulties in accessing basic public services, such as education and healthcare. Mothers right now are working through very complicated and bureaucratic processes just to sign up our children for primary schooling. And when they do get signed up, they face a delay between 2 to 8 weeks. They start their school later than the children of Malaysian children. Also, a less spoken issue is the mental health toll and the psychological impacts of facing such discrimination. Personally, I've had a very difficult few years with my dad's illness and subsequent death. I'm grieving him deeply, and I know he championed my fight for my daughter's citizenship right up to the very end. Even as I was caregiving for my dad, I was writing stories, appearing on panels with the support of Family Frontiers, all to bring awareness to this issue. It eats into every aspect of your life. It takes away from time and energy that can otherwise be spent doing what other mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters are doing with their time and their lives. So really, we welcome the move by the government to table the amendment in September that will end our struggles. It is long overdue. We urge the government to fulfill its promise to grant equal rights to Malaysian women, to confer automatic citizenship to our children on the equal basis as men without delay.